On the second day of our Compline reflections, I'd like us to look at the fourth and fifth of the series of 7 lost words from the cross. The first of which is a word of forsakenness, and the second a word of distress. St. Mark and St. Matthew record that as Jesus was dying on the cross, he cried out, "Eloi, Eloi, lama sabachthani." The words have been translated from Aramaic and are recorded slightly different by Matthew and Mark. But they're words that come from Psalm 22, the first verse. My God, why have you abandoned me?" In Hebrew, the words are lama azaphtani, and they refer to being abandoned or forsaken, perhaps reflecting that common human experience of desolation in the face of trouble. Of course, it's easy to feel abandoned and alone when one is at one's lowest ebb. And many commentators have taken this to indicate Jesus' total identification with our human experience. But I want to suggest a slightly different way of looking at this phrase, for I think this word shows us that God is most truly there for us when he seems most absent. The cross is the last place on earth you would expect to find God. And yet our Christian faith tells us that here is exactly where we find God. The cross is a symbol of all human suffering and violence, the very opposite of what we might consider God's healing love and peace. And yet this is also the place where God's healing love and peace meet that suffering and violence. God shares the suffering and violence, but within his transforming and transfiguring love and healing. So in the next word from the cross, Jesus cries out, "I thirst," and in that phrase captures the desolation and dryness of dying. Just as the desert looks devoid of all life and growth in its parched condition, and yet holds the potential for new life and growth when the dew comes again, so this life ebbing away in dryness and desolation on the cross holds the potential for new life as the tree of death is transformed into the tree of new life. In these words of forsakenness and distress, we are shown that God continues to be there, even as we believe ourselves to be abandoned.